Now I can see familiar face.
So, Theruvan Sarana everyone. Before starting today's discussion, based on the questions that you have put to the WhatsApp group, we are going to create a favorable mindset for a Dhamma discussion. That means we are going to focus on the true qualities of Supreme Buddha, Supreme Dhamma, and Supreme Sangha. Think about the rare opportunity we have gained by being in a time period where the true Dhamma is still available. By being a human who can understand this pure Dhamma, we have got this great opportunity to complete our Arya pathways, ending this suffering samsaric journey. A thing that we did not do up until now in this infinite samsaric journey. So with that great understanding, let us focus on all the meritorious deeds that we have done, contemplation of anicca dukkha anatta, an offering of danas, paying respects, taking refuge on Buddha Dhamma Sangha, being virtuous, all the 10 meritorious deeds that we might have done throughout this samsaric journey. Focus on them. May all that meritorious power agglomerate together, creating the favorable environment for us to understand this Dhamma, developing our wisdom, ending this samsaric journey. All the unwholesome things that we have done, especially towards Aryas, especially towards Buddha Sasana, let us seek forgiveness for all of those, understanding our faults, correcting them, and moving forward, being a better version of ourselves. So let us seek forgiveness in front of the Supreme Buddhas, thinking that they are alive in front of us. In Buddha Sasana, seeking forgiveness is not being resentful of our past doings. It is about understanding the faults with our wisdom and moving forward correcting them. So let us seek forgiveness in front of Supreme Buddhas for all the sins, all the unwholesome things that we have done throughout this samsaric journey. Promising ourselves not to do those kinds of things again. With that idea in mind, accept this with a sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So today we have got a few questions. After some break, we are having 2 questions. If you have any other questions, feel free to put those questions into the chat. So I'll read out the question and then we'll move on with the discussion. In the video number 23, but I'm not quite sure with the reference because I'm not listening to the sermons again. So I don't have an idea what I told in the sermon, but I think I can understand the context because you have given description with your question. In the video number 23, there is a brief description of a last cittavithi. In this scenario, the person's eyes, ears, etc. They shut down and only the mind is active. The process has been described as follows: bhavanga, chitta, then atita bhavanga, bhavanga, chalana bhavanga, pacchetako, followed by panchadravarjana, and then it's not manovinyana actually, panchadravarna, santirna, sampatichana, vattapana, and then 7 javanas. That completes 17 cittavithi, cittakshana. Cittakshana means moments in chitta. So I have read that if it's a mano dwara, then there's no panchadravarjana, and mano vinyana chittas take over from the start, beginning with mano dravarjana. Yeah, so I'll answer this question, and I have to add something to it after answering the question. So the initial thing is, so here bhava, atita, bhavanga, bhavanga, chalana, all these things we cannot experience them in our with our wisdom. It's just like learning something. So let's say we learn how an engine works. So we know how the piston works. If we have learned it, we know how the gas is carried into the gas chamber or the combustion chamber. So the combustion happens. There's an explosion at the combustion chamber, and it is the chemical energy is transformed into mechanical energy through a piston, and this is how an engine works. I'm just giving you an analogy. So just like that, when it comes to mind, just like we try to understand the engine, we have various parts like panchadravarjana, cittavithi, cittakshana, cittavithi, everything works in unison or works together, works in synchronization for our mind to work. But we cannot, not like in the case of the engine, where we are able to perceive it through our wisdom, through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue. We can see it, we can hear it. When it is about the engine, it's simpler. But when it is about the mind, only a Supreme Buddha knows how it works. We are only understanding it through his words. We are only learning it. This learning has good points because it will help us to understand anicca. But if it is not going in that direction, to deepen the understanding of anicca, then it just becomes data and information. It will not deepen our understanding. It will not increase our wisdom. It will be another day where we have learned something. Just like in a day at the school, where we learn some, something, how something works. It would be the science 101, science class. It would be like the science class because we are learning something, but that learning is just for our enthusiasm and for our and it goes to our memory, and we'll have a lot of information and a lot of knowledge on Abhidhamma, and it will not help us in the long run to develop wisdom if we do not use it in that way. It doesn't mean that these things cannot be. It doesn't mean that these things cannot be used to understand Dhamma. It can be, but we have to understand how to think in that way. We have to have the correct way of thinking. So I'll answer this question with that heads up, and we'll discuss more about this after the answer. So the thing is, in the last cittavithi, when we die, it is not a very simple process. It is a very, very complex process. It sometimes, the last cittavithi is helped with many thousand, billions of millions and billions of cittavithis before the last one. For example, let's take a scenario. Let's say a person kills animals for fun, or let's say he has a farm. He kills pigs for meat, chicken for meat, and this is his way of living. Now, after 60 years old, he stops this. He stopped his job, and he enters his last, or he retires at 60, and now he's not killing anybody. Now he's having a normal, ordinary life like any other old person. So now he is at his 80s, and in 1 year, his last cittavithi has to occur. If that is the case, there could be a scenario where he's starting to feel these things, or mind starts to get ready for his last cittavithi 1 year before his last cittavithi. That means he starts, all of a sudden, he starts remembering the killing of animals, their screamings, and he starts repenting on those things. So this is how our mind increases, the power of it. It has to build up to that last cittavithi. It doesn't occur all of a sudden. That means out of the blue. It's not like that. It doesn't occur out of the blue. It needs to be prepared for that last cittavithi. Our mind is like that. So it could be 1 year, it could be 1 month, it could be 7 days, it could be few days. But it has to happen that way. There are other instances where the person dies in a flick second, just like in a road accident, or some kind of a very severe accident where the person dies in a very short time period. Then this can change. But if it is a scenario like we are talking right now, then it takes some time for that last cittavithi, or that last cittavithi needs the build up to it. So let's say it started 1 year before the last cittavithi, and the person is thinking of and repenting on these things and always remembering these things, and his mind is a little bit agitated, and this goes on. And in the last few days, this intensifies. Now he can't, his consciousness reduces. At least that's what other people see. But his consciousness doesn't reduce for him. But other people see that the person is not talking. The person cannot hear anything. Person is not moving a hand, or the bodily movements are restricted. It's not happening like before. It's like the person has already half dead inside. But as we discussed in the previous sermons, it's the body that dysfunctions, but the mind, the function of the mind increases, because now it's purely the mind that starts working. So he starts remembering these things, but the outside people, outside world, don't know what is happening inside him. So the last cittavithi comes, and it is powered by all the cittavithis that occurred before. For 1 year, this has been happening on and off, continually. Not continuously, but continually it has been happening. On and off, it is getting powered up until the last cittavithi. Now at the last cittavithi, it would be, it could be a manodwara. It could be, it doesn't mean that actually every person dies in this way. This is just an example. So there could be people who has good eyesight, who has good hearing, and last cittavithi is not a totally a manodwara cittavithi. It could be that the person is getting the inputs from his eye. Let's say there are instances, especially in here, when people dies in Sri Lanka, when people dies, if they were Buddhists, what they do is they start, and if the children and the loved ones understand that this person is in his dead bed and would die in a few minutes, few hours, they start helping him to remind himself about the meritorious deeds that they did. This is called the Ping Pota. Ping means meritorious, Pota means book. So there's a book these individuals maintain, and in this book, all the good things that they have done throughout their lifetimes has been written in order with, 1, 2, 3, 4. Likewise, it has been written in the book. So at the deathbed, somebody, maybe a grandchild, would be reading this, so that the grandmother or the grandfather who is going to die in few hours might remember the good things that they have done. So this is only if the person has lived a virtuous life, because then only that person would be able to have that kind of a environment where he is able to think clearly, hear clearly. But if it is an unwholesome person who has done many unwholesome things, he might not get that chance. All his external indriya, external organs would cut off, just like in the scenario that we discussed a little while ago. So here, in this scenario, the second scenario, if when the things are being said, he focuses on the, okay, yes, I actually offered this much of money to the construction of this temple, construction of this stupa. I did a very big dana, and I was virtuous all this life. So when he is listening to these things, he focuses on them and starts new cittavithis. So again, Panchadavarjuna, everything happens inside, but we don't need that much of detail when it comes to understanding of Dhamma. So anyway, the person would understand that, and since the other person is helping him to develop that or power up that last cittavithi, it will become more and more stronger, and the final cittavithi would become a good one, and he'll be born in a good realm. So there are various ways this could go. So this is very complex. We only discussed one way of this happening. There are various ways it can go. So that's why I discussed right now 2 scenarios. So in this, if it is going through a Panchadhara Chittavithi, then the Panchadhara, it goes like Atita Bhavanga, Bhavanga, Chalana, Bhavanga, Pajitaka, Panchadhara Varjana. Then there would be Santirana, Sampatichana, Vattapana. Then there would be Javana. Javana are actually the Sankara that we do, and it will actually create something, a power that would, it is actually a karmic power that is the sole force that continues the samsaric journey. But Panchadavarjana itself, or that means the Panchadavarjana Chittavithi itself is not that powerful. So after that, 3 other Manodwara Chittavithi would occur, taking the same stimulus that we took from the Panchadavarjana. That means it is 1 Panchadavarjana Chittavithi and 3 Manodwara Chittavithi attached to that Panchadhara Chittavithi. So it's all together, it's 4 cittavitis together as a bundle. So it is a must that all these cittavitis work together. So Panchadhavajan cittavithi ended. As soon as it ends, 3 manodvara cittavithi starts, and in this only the processing part happens, and the person can understand what is actually was grasped by the Panchadvara or eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body. So this is for the second scenario. So through that, the person develops javana, and that javana could be the last cittavithi. Fifth javana, the cuti happens, and in the 6th javana, the patisandhi happens, and the person dies and born again as a new being. So if it is manodvara doesn't have to be 17 cittavithis. It can go millions, billions. It's different. So not like in the Panchadvara, in the case of Panchadvara, you don't have to have 3 Anubaddhadhara cittavithi or affiliated cittavithis. 3 affiliated cittavithis for the Panchadvarjana. You have to have that, but for Manodvara, you don't have to have that. You can have a continuous cittavithi, which have thousands, millions, and billions of chittaksha. It's different. So anyway, we don't need that much of detail, because when we start going in that pathway, it will become more and more complex. But there's a very nice thing in Arya Dhamma. With the practice, it should become more and more easier, not more and more complex. You can focus on your Arya pathway right now. If the understanding is becoming simpler and simpler for you, you can understand it very clearly now than you did 2 years before. Then you are on the correct pathway. But if it is getting more and more complex and it becomes like something like rocket science, then we have to re-evaluate and try to understand what is the problem. Why is it becoming more and more complex now? Am I on the right pathway? Am I just in a learning experience, or am I trying to develop my wisdom? So we have to think in that pattern, because these examples are being given to make you understand, to make you have a solid ground to work, because otherwise, without this basis, we can discuss only the scenarios, only the examples, only the day-to-day experiences, but it might not give you that solid answer that is backed by the abhidhamma or the technical part of dhamma. But that technical part is just to confirm your understanding, not to latch on to it, not to go deeper in that pathway, because it is a very, very complex pathway where the roots go into the depth of the understanding of a Supreme Buddha. So we can just understand the surface of it, but if we try to go deeper and deeper, it will become more harder and harder, and we would never be able to understand it unless we become a Supreme Buddha. So the thing is, what we need to understand here is, if I show you the area that we should understand, or we should focus on, so that we would develop our wisdom, this is how we should think. See that this mind cannot be controlled according to our expectation. So focus on anicca dukkha anatta. That is what I am saying indirectly. See, it's panchadhavarjan. It's bhavang, atita bhavang, bhavanga chalana, bhavanga upacheda. So each chittakshana or each moment in chitta has its specific function. Since they have a specific function, and it is working in or in synchronization for a specific effect. It's just like a machine. And this very powerful and very integrated machine would give the sense of ability to do something according to our expectation. But if we go to that chittakshana cittavithi level and we contemplate, it's not like that. It's panchadha varjana. We don't have any control over it. It cannot be changed according to our expectation. Even though we like it or we don't like it, it will happen if the correct causes are aligned. So focus on that pathway. You can see anicca everywhere in this discussion, in this abhidhamma, in this other dhamma, technical dhamma points. So technical dhamma points is actually confirming our understanding. It helps us to understand or dig deeper in anicca dukkha anatta more. So it is of dukkha nature, because if it cannot be, when the if it is not, it is regardless of our wish for a panchadra varjana, or for it not to happen, regardless of that expectation, it will happen when the eye meet the image. When the eyes are meeting the image, that bhavanga chitta would change to atita bhavanga, bhavanga chalana, bhavanga pachedaka, and panchadra varjana would happen even though we like it or not. So it is in that way of anicca nature. If that is the case, I would not be able to watch what I like, and I would not be able to not watch what I don't like. That is of dukkha nature, because I would not be able to experience what I want. It will change to what I don't like. And it is of anatta nature, because see, this chittakshana or moments of chitta does not last even a flick of a second. It's just like rotation of a fireball, creating the illusion of a ring of fire. It's just like that. The survival is something like that. Surviving being is something like that. It's an illusion. So no, we can't have a solid idea that this should go this way and this should go that way, that should go that way. We can't have that, because it does not last. It's just a moment of effect as a result of a combination of causes. So if we use that pathway for our understanding and to increase our understanding, we are seeing anicca everywhere, dukkha everywhere, anatta everywhere. Because in one sutta, Supreme Buddha, a disciple of Supreme Buddha asked him, what do I have to do to become Sotapanna? What do I have to do to become Sakadagami, Anagami, Arihat? And what do I have to do after becoming Arihat? And the Supreme Buddha's answer was simple. And there was only one answer for all those questions. That was contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta. To become Sotapanna, you have to contemplate on anicca dukkha anatta. To become Sakadagami, you have to do the same thing. Anagami, Arihat. And after becoming Arihat, you are doing the same thing, because there's nothing to look other than that, because it is the reality. Even after becoming Arihat, the Arihat individual, that noble, sacred individual, would see this anicca dukkha anatta nature of the world everywhere when he is engaging with the world. And that itself would develop the Sattabojjhanga for him, developing Preeti, Passaddhi, and Samadhi. And that would be the ultimate, or that would be a blissful life for him, because he's seeing the reality. Now, that is what I wanted to tell you with regard in this question. So, if we go to the technical part, yes, these Chittakshana and Cittavithi are very, very complex. We can just understand the basics, like there are 17 Chittakshana for a Cittavithi, and we can know the names. We can know that after each Panchadravarjana Cittavithi, 3 Manodwara Cittavithi occurs. And if it is solely a Manodwara Cittavithi, you don't have to have 17 Chittakshana, you can have millions and billions. And Avarjana Chittakshana is a result of actually the karmic power. So if we have created good karma, we would be recollecting good images. We would be, the inputs from the eye would be good, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind would be good. So that is why karmic energy becomes the sole force that decides where we go at the last Cittavithi. Because the stimulus is given by karmic energy. But this can be changed with panya. If the person is having prajna, just like in the case of Angulimala Thero, he has killed many thousands of people. Even though he has killed many thousands of people, in his last Cittavithi, he cannot be dragged into the hell. Because even though, let's say, the Manodwara Cittavithi give the stimulus in favor of getting him to the hell. So he remembers his killings. But it would not never be able to drag him to the hell, because Vattapana Chittakshana, where the person decides, that person would never decide with avidya and decide with panya. He would remember, okay, this is the nature, this is the anicca nature, this is the dukkha nature, this is the anatta nature. When the person is when the person's mindset is of avidya, when the person's mindset works with avidya, when the correct environment is created, when all the other causes are aligning, that avidya paccaya sankara would happen, leading to bad outcomes. That is anicca, cannot be controlled according to the expectation. But now I know that, and because of that, the value to the world has become zero, and there's no possibility for my mindset or this mindset to develop avidya again, and that itself is the panya, that itself is the wisdom. So the Vattapana Chittakshana would be derived by panya. So after Vattapana you have Javana. So Javana would become powerless because it is starting with panya. So for a person like him, for a noble person, for a Sotapanna person, that person could not be dragged into the hell, however much bad things they have done before in his sansaric journey. So there are two things. One is the stimulus, and stimulus is governed by the karmic power, and one is the Vattapana. If the person does not have panya, Vattapana would happen according to avidya. And when that happens, karmic power always wins. We would be dragged into the place where the karmic power wants. But if we had panya, karmic power is powerless. It's the panya that governs where we go. That is enough for us. This much of understanding would be more than enough for our development of panya. Anyway, if you have any clarifications, feel free to put those into the chat. We can discuss, and we can continue the discussion based on those questions. My take-home message, a very important part that we should focus is actually focusing on our pathway needs a lot of sati or mindfulness. We have to be mindful as well as we have to be wise. Because let's say, as a monk, I go to the university to study Buddhism and I get a degree in Buddhism, Abhidhamma, Tripitaka, just like in the case of Potila Thero. So I become a very knowledgeable person. And I would be very happy that I am progressing in the Arya pathway as well, because that's what I believe. But that would not be the real progression in the Arya pathway. If we are progressing on the Arya pathway, our defilement should reduce day by day. And we should actively work on our defilements, raga, dosa, and moha. Because raga kyo is what Nibbana is. Dosa kyo Nibbana and moha kyo Nibbana. So if we want to achieve Nibbana, attain Nibbana, we should always question ourselves whether what I am doing would help me to get rid of raga, get rid of dosa, and get rid of moha. Otherwise, we would be very happy that we are spending our time with Buddha Sasana, but we are not using it very wisely. So this is the take-home message. Focus on when you are practicing Arya pathway, ask from yourself whether this would help you to complete your Arya pathway, to complete the reduction of raga, dosa, and moha. It's very easy. Benchmark is the raga, dosa, moha. What am I doing? The thing that I do, would it reduce raga? If it does, please continue that, because that is helpful and you are on the correct pathway. What I am doing right now, would it reduce dosa? Would it reduce moha? If it does, by all means, you have to continue. But it could be something related to Buddha Sasana. It could be, facts. It could be some other things. It could be a song that is written about Buddha Sasana. But is it reducing raga? If it does, then we can continue. If we reduce dosa, moha, then that is a good thing. This is called sevitabba. There's a sutta in Majjhima Nikaya called Sevitabba Sutta. And in that, Supreme Buddha mentions very clearly, if we are engaging with something, if it is even regardless of whether it is an image, sound, smell, taste, touch, or a thought, if it increases raga, dosa, moha, we should get detached from it. We should not go after it. But if it reduces raga, dosa, moha, then we should use that more and more. And it is a very big account. That sutta is a very big account on this topic. It goes to the length of describing, for a monk, it was actually intended for monks. So it says, if a monk is getting associated with another monk, or let's say a devotee or somebody, and if that association increases raga, dosa, moha, then we should discontinue that attachment, or we should discontinue seeing that person. If an association with a person increases or reduces raga, dosa, moha, if that is what is happening, then we should continue that relationship. If staying in one temple increases raga, dosa, moha, we should go somewhere else. And if staying in this temple, in that whatever the temple it is, reduces raga, dosa, moha, then we should not leave that temple. We should stay there, even if it's life-threatening. It says like that. If one takes a meal, some kind of a food item, and if it increases raga, dosa, moha, we should discontinue. And if some food reduces raga, dosa, moha, should continue that. And likewise, there are many things that have been mentioned here in that sutta. So just like that, even when you are practicing Arya Dhamma, you might fall into this idea, okay, I'm practicing Arya Dhamma, I'm doing something related to Arya Dhamma. But ask this question from yourself, is it really reducing raga, dvesa, moha? Or am I doing something that kills my valuable and precious time? Because it's precious. These human seconds are very precious. See, maybe I don't know how much time that has passed. Okay, 42 minutes has passed. So 42 human minutes has gone, and we would not be able to experience, we would not be able to revoke those 42 minutes again. We can be happy that we use those 42 minutes for good use. And we have to think in that same line, whether we are using our human minutes, human seconds, human hours for a good outcome, or whether we are using it to a bad outcome. If it is a bad outcome, we will straight away know, okay, I'm doing something unwholesome. But when it comes to something related to Buddhism or Buddha Dhamma, it could be that it could feel like we are doing something to get out of this sansaric journey. But think more wisely, with more mindfulness, and ask this question whether is it really reducing my raga, dvesa, moha if I think in this way? If I learn this, is it really reducing raga, dvesa, moha? So focus on that more. Don't be too technical, because if we start becoming too technical, our brain power or our ability to think shifts to an area where wisdom does not emanate anymore. It just becomes something like mathematics for us. But wisdom is developed in a very relaxed mindset, where there is less complexity. You can remember in our past discussions, we discussed how a teacher and his disciple attain Nibbana by just seeing a pile of feces. If I remind you the story back again, the teacher and the student was going somewhere, maybe to another temple, and this student had to use the toilet, washroom, but there were no washrooms at that time, so they had to go to the, to the jungle. And he told his teacher, okay, I have this need, and I have to take care of my needs, so can you stay here for a little bit, so I'll go and finish my business and come back. So he goes into the jungle, and he sees this place where people has used to defecate. So he goes and he continue on with his business, but He's contemplating on what he sees. So he sees a lot of feces everywhere, and he gets the smell. He sees how it has become the older. That means people have used this place to defecate for a long time. So there are newly introduced ones, we can say, and there are old ones which are dried up. So he thinks this is the contemplation. This is the practical pathway to Nibbana. So he thinks, okay, what I eat yesterday would become this, and it will be very stinky and rotting, but with time it will also get dried up. And why should I get attached to something that ends up like this? I don't know what exactly he thought, but he thought in a way that would reduce the attachments to the world. So as a result, he became anagami. While he is doing his business, while he is defecating, he became anagami because he was contemplating in the correct way. He was not thinking about Abhidhamma, not thinking about technical parts. He was just using his, the practical use of, he just continued his practical use of Anicca Dukkha Anatta. And he came back to his teacher and told his teacher, I met a teacher while I was going to do my business. I met a teacher and I became anagami. And teacher was very enthusiastic now. He asked, okay, I also want to meet this teacher. Wait here a little bit. I'll also go. And he went thinking, what kind of a teacher who stays in this kind of a place? And he saw the same pile of feces on that rock. And he also started contemplating. Might have took a different pathway, but definitely he have contemplated in a way that would reduce raga dosa more. And at the end he became Arihat, and he came back and told, and the disciple asked, did you meet the teacher? And the teacher said, yes, I also met the teacher. What did you get? I became Arihat, was the answer. Now those were the stories that we could hear from the past. And in one instance, there were 50 or so disciples behind the main teacher, and they were going on Pindapata in a line. When monks go on Pindapata, they go one after the other in a straight line. When the teacher stops, everybody stops. And there was a lady who was singing this poem while doing some farm work. There was a paddy field or some field, and the lady was doing some farm, things that are related to agriculture. And while doing that, she was singing a poem. Teacher stopped and asked his disciples to listen to that poem and contemplate. Actually, even though the lady doesn't know, it has an Arya meaning. With the contemplation, when the poem ends, all 50 or so disciples became Arihat. So these are very simple things that they contemplated on. That simpleness of the mind is very needed, because it's like an elephant trying to hold on to a needle. If our mind is like an elephant, we would not never be able to hold on to that needle, because Dhamma is like a needle. It is very fine. We need to have a very relaxed mindset to understand that. That is why small children of 7 years of age, 5 years of age could become Arihat. Because they didn't, the understanding Dhamma doesn't need very complex scenarios, very complex mechanisms. It's just the feeling of anicca, feeling of dukkha, feeling of anatta, and the ability to implement that feeling in a day-to-day basis. The more we involve with the environment, and more we focus on anicca, dukkha, anatta, that feeling would grow, and our ability to implement anicca, dukkha, anatta in a day-to-day basis also would grow. And that is, of course, the development in our path. So I hope that covers the first question, and we'll discuss the second question. If you have any other questions regarding this one, the question that we had right now, feel free to put those into the chat, and I'll read the second one. There will be times when a Dhamma practitioner encounters health problems, old age, etc., which makes the usual practice impossible or extremely difficult. How can one keep the practices going in such a difficult situation and avoid allowing fear, despair, or old habits from surfacing and taking over? Now, this is a good question. This is a practical question. And the thing is, so we have to know that the world is of anicca, dukkha, anatta nature. But so as a result of that, because the world is of anicca, dukkha, anatta nature, some things cannot be changed. But some things can be changed using our wisdom. So here, when the person is old, it doesn't mean that the person cannot understand. But becoming old, getting old is definitely a negative factor. For example, there was somebody called Mahadana Sitano. So Mahadana Sitano is actually a merchant. Mahadana means with a lot of wealth. A merchant with a lot of wealth. Along with his wife, he is actually begging in the street. The merchant with a lot of wealth is begging in the street. Supreme Buddha saw this and mentioned this incident in his sermon, saying that, do you see that Mahadana Sitana? If he entered the Buddha Sasana in his small age, he would become Arihat. If he entered the Buddha Sasana in his younger age, like in 18, 20 age, he would become Sakadaga. If he had entered the Buddha Sasana in his middle age, he would become, if he entered the Sasana in his younger age, he would become Anaga. If he entered the Buddha Sasana in his middle age, he would have become Sakadaga. Now he is too old to attain or understand anything. Now he don't have that ability. It's the same for his wife. If his wife entered Buddha Sasana or started practicing Buddha Dhamma, when she was small, she would have become Anagami. If it was done in her younger age, she would have become Sakadaga. If it was done in her middle age, she would have become Sotapanna. Now they both are very old. can't contemplate on anything, would not be able to complete their journey. So that is the causes and effects. If the causes are aligning in that way, the effect would be accordingly. So this is a good example that we can use here. So the best thing we can do is to become quick or take the initiative, take the effort, and try to do it as soon as possible. It's the best option that we can have, because gradually everybody is getting older, and when we become older, our abilities reduce along with the old age because of the jara marana nature. So it is a very good point, or very good point to think of, to become more focused, so that we could complete this Hare pathway as soon as possible. So anyway, if the person is old now, and if the person is having Dhamma understanding, then he has the seed, or he has opened the eyes of wisdom. Then he cannot be, his gati becomes fixed. He would definitely become Arihat and end the samsaric journey, because he knows what is the reality. If that is also not there, and if the person is becoming, if the person's hearing is becoming more and more disturbed, if the person can't hear properly, then that is the end of story. Because we need to have our hearing to understand them. If the person is not having that ability to hear, I have seen many in my life. Some individuals, some devotees bring their old mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts to listen to Dhamma, but they are too old, they can't hear. Sometimes they can't focus. So that becomes the end of the story, because we can't do anything about it. If the person can't hear, that is the end of the story. But if that person heard Dhamma before and has understood Dhamma, then that is a plus point. Anyway, that person would end up in Nibbana, even if it does not happen in this life, it will happen very soon. We compare it with the samsaric journey. And if the person is having the understanding of Dhamma, then it is very easy for that person to contemplate, because now he has Dhamma inside him. So what needs to be done is, we have to complete the eightfold pathway, samadhi, from samadhi to samma samadhi. So that is the soul, and that is the only pathway to Nibbana. So there could be old habits that the person has, but with old age, it is very easy to focus on all the adina, all the aches and pains. He has a very good comparison, not like in the very young age. In very young age, we have all the abilities in the world. We can do whatever we want. We feel like that. We can talk, we can sing, we can hear, and all the indriya, all the organs are very refreshed. We have all the abilities as young people. But as we grow older, we become, our indriya or organs become more weaker. And when it becomes weaker and weaker, we have a very good comparison now. In my younger age, it was like this, and now it is like that. In my young age, my hair was black. Now it's turning white. And we have a first-hand experience. It's not like we are seeing other old people. We are becoming old. So the impact is more. It's huge. The impact it creates is huge. So it's very easy to focus on adina. And when we start focusing on those adina, it's the best weapon that a person who is getting older can use. Elderly person focuses on the adina. This sansaric journey is so useless, so pointless, so essenceless, because this is what I have become. My old doings, my old abilities are all gone. They are just memories that creates agony and pain in me. As soon as I remember my past abilities, I start suffering. What it creates is either anger or either despair, either sorrow, or all the negative emotions. I could do this in my past, but I can't right now because I'm old. So when that person thinks in this line, the person focuses on more adinava nature. And when the adinava is seen more predominantly, that person can very easily get out of the attachments and see and penetrate to Nitya Sukhatta Subha into the Anicca Dukkha Anatta nature. So this is what we should focus. This is what that person should focus on. Then another point is when the person is becoming older and when he cannot continue on his work, that means the past habits, because in the question it has mentioned about the past habits. So you can compare the nature of the past habits or the experience of it as a younger person and as an older person. It would give a sense of understanding, an eye opener. It would become an eye opener for that person. I'm not experiencing the same thing anymore. I'm just focusing on my past memories and trying to recreate them, but I can't because of anicca dukkha anatta nature. So focusing on anicca dukkha anatta nature is the ultimate need. It is what we should do. And to do that, we start from adinava. Because adinava is the strength for this elderly person. And when the person becomes older, his memory power reduces, his contemplation power reduces, he's having aches and pains all over the body, so the meditation becomes more harder. But that is the nature of samsara. So when all of this happens, if we focus on panya indriya, the wisdom and wise contemplation, however the way we can, then it will help at least a little bit. Anyway, we would not be able to have 100% ability in this old age, but we would be using it wisely as a person who has understood Dhamma. So that is what I would recommend to continue. And there were many things that were mentioned. How can one keep the practices going in such a difficult situation? Avoid allowing fear. Oh, now that is a very good point that you have mentioned. Fear, despair. I think I mentioned about the old habits from reversing and taking over. But about the fear and despair, the thing is, if the person is not having any Dhamma understanding, then the story is different. We have to first make him understand about anicca dukkha anatta. can try, but it can fail. And we have to understand that the world is of anicca, dukkha, anatta nature. Even Supreme Buddha could not help everybody, because it is not the Supreme Buddha's doing, it is their own doings that would help them to understand Dhamma or not. So, if the person has the understanding of Dhamma, then focusing on anicca, dukkha, anatta nature itself would get out of that fearful situation. If we try to control, that creates fear. If we try to relax, that would not create fear. Because abhaya is another name for Nibbana. Bhaya is fear. Abhaya is fearless or no fear. So it is another name for Nibbana. So if the one has the understanding of Nibbana and can focus on anicca, dukkha, anatta, then that person knows exactly that this world is not according to the expectation, and that is a fact. If it cannot be controlled according to the expectation, why would somebody be fearful? Because you don't have any control over it. Why does fear occur? When there's attachment. When there's attachment, why does attachment occur? When there's value. When there are valuable things, that is the reason for fear. So we have to focus on where is the value, where is the valuable thing that creates this fear. So we have to start contemplating. Okay, I feel very fearful about my life. Why is that? Is it because I don't like to get I don't like to get separated from the worldly things? Is it because I feel like I would not be able to complete this RA journey? Whatever it is because of value. When we know anicca, we would see, okay, if it is about not being able to complete the RA journey, then focusing on anicca itself is the only solution for that. And anicca says you can't control even your RA journey according to your expectation. So why am I trying to do that? By doing that, I am out of the RA pathway. So if I want to get into the RA pathway, I have to think, okay, I'll do what I can. It is the life. It is the sansara. It is the nature of the sansara that the world is of anicca and the world is of anicca nature. So I can't control anything according to my wishes. Even though I want to become Arihat, even though I want to end this suffering sansaric journey, the sansaric, the Arya pathway is also of anicca nature. If all the causes align, the effect would occur. Otherwise, it will not occur. So I'll think wisely, and I'll start aligning the causes. And that is how I should become more focused. That is how I should complete this Arya journey as soon as possible. Being fearful is not seeing anicca. That itself is a wrong approach. So if it is for the Arya journey, we can think like that, and it will get us back on track. And if it is about worldly things, again, the answer is focusing on the reality. I am feeling fearful because I'm attached to something. So find where you are attached. When somebody is attached, that is because of value. So find that valuable component in this life, in that moment. And if one pinpoints to that culprit or the epicenter of the problem, then that person can focus on anicca, dukkha, anatta, and see the reality of that item, of that object, of that incident, whatever it is. When that person understands the reality, the value would reduce to zero, attachment would not occur. There's nothing to be fear of. So everything would be solved. So that covers the answer to this question, the second one. And I hope everything is clear. If not, please put the questions into the chat. We'll continue the discussion based on that. Otherwise, since we have 1 more hour left, 50 minutes left, we can continue on maybe reciting some Buddha-guna. I'll wait few minutes, or 1 or 2 minutes, and then we'll continue. I hope, Mr. Amin, your question is solved. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's fine. You can put the question here. Doesn't have to be your question, because every question can lead to answers for others as well. Okay, that's the question. I don't know how, but I started to question things like, why do I exist? Why am I in this samsara? Why haven't I attained parinirvana in this infinite samsara? Why isn't everything parinirvana? Then I unknowingly started to fear an aversion towards existence itself. But I realized lately I was generating vibhava tanha. I think because of my problems in life, I got to this level. I started to experience existential crisis. The way I used to feel amazing about the Dhamma suddenly got stuck with such thoughts and was afraid to listen to the Dhamma because of such feelings. Okay. I would say this is wrong way of thinking. The real question should be not why do I exist? What is the problem with existence? Because when we say why do I exist, it doesn't focus on our real problem. If we say what is the purpose? Oh, what is the problem with existence? Oh, let's rephrase that question. What is the problem I have right now? Because I am a being in the existence, so right now is also existence. So simply we can very easily say, what is the problem that I have right now? And answering that question would really focus on the true result of Buddha-dhamma. So why do I exist cannot be answered. Only a Supreme Buddha can answer that kind of a question. That is wrong way of wrong approach. Why am I in this samsara? These are very these are not questions that we should find answers straight away. But we'll know why when we answer the first question that I mentioned. So let's think like this. If we find answers to that initial question, what is the problem that I have right now? And if there's no problem at all, existence becomes a good thing, right? There's no problem with the existence. Then we don't have to think, why do I exist? Because existence itself is a good thing if there are no problems. So even to get to this question, why do I exist? You know, in that question, there is this a hidden message or hidden conclusion that this existence is bad, right? Because one would never ask, why would I exist if the existence is good? So without even knowing, there's a subconscious conclusion in the mind before this question, why do I exist, that the existence is itself is bad. Then only one would ask, oh, why do I exist? Otherwise, if the existence is considered as good, then the person would never ask, why do I exist? That question would never pop up in his mind. He would like the existence. He would value the existence, and he would never want to question about the existence. He would never want to question about samsara. So if we dig deeper, there's this there's this conclusion in the subconscious mind saying that existence is bad. So if one says the existence is bad, then they have to know their facts correct. That means one can question about this after they understand what is the problem with the existence. If it was just there's a problem with the existence and doesn't know what the problem is, then that is why I said the focus is not in the correct place. So the focus should come to that subconscious conclusion. Conclusion in the subconscious mind is the existence itself is bad. Why do one think that existence is bad? If that person knows anicca dukkha anatta, then that is totally fine. But then they would not have these types of questions. If that person just goes into that conclusion just by listening to some stories or some opinions of other people without the correct Dhamma understanding, that could lead to this kind of a problem. So instead of focusing on this question, we ask, what is the problem that we have right now? So we would understand, however much we try to pursue or go after blissfulness, we fail miserably. If we have to learn to focus on the big picture, not the problem is our mind always focuses on the simple incident. That means we are always thinking incident by incident. We are hungry, we take food, we are happy. That is very narrow thinking. But if we expand our thinking, or we expand our focus to the whole lifetime or to the whole universe, sansaric journey, the person would understand, I become hungry again and again and again and again, and I take meals again and again and again and again. Me being hungry never stops. Me taking meals never stop. This is an endless journey. This is not the correct solution for my problem. If I say I am hungry, I take a delicious meal, now I am happy and I like delicious things and everything. But after even 1 second of taking that meal, hunger accumulates. 1 second of hunger, 2 seconds of hunger, 3, 4, 1 minute of hunger, 1 hour of hunger, 6 hours of hunger, now we are hungry. So however much we try to reduce our burden, reduce our vexation, we have not found a correct solution. Now that is a problem with existence. However much we try to find or try to control and try to control things according to our expectation, we have failed miserably. We know that is because of anicca, dukkha, anatta nature. So that needs to be discussed. That is a problem with existence. That is a problem that we are having right now. However much we try to latch on to things, however much we try to make things ours, good things, I'm saying about the good things, and however much we try to remove the bad things in our life and to attach to good things in our life, since it is a cause and effect thing, it works according to paticca, we fail miserably, ending up in sorrow, despair, lamentation, and all the other negative emotions. So when we know this, we would know that this is a problem with existence. And then there's other problems. However much we try, it is a combination of 3 dukkha's. We do sankhara all the time to continue having pleasure, continue having blissfulness. But sankhara itself is tiresome. Sankhara itself is burden. However much we do sankhara, it ends up in jara, marana, leading to suffering. And jara, marana would lead to vexation again. So dukkha of vexation, dukkha also occurs. So it is an illusion of blissfulness, but actually it is a suffering experience if we use our wisdom correctly. So that is a problem with existence. So focus on anicca, dukkha, and anatta. Focus on day-to-day work, because that is what makes the existence. Fraction of day-to-day work, whatever we do in this second, dies right now, and the next second emanates, and in that next second, whatever we do in that next second also dies. And this is a continuous process. And if we look at that whole picture, we would see the existence of a being. But in those individual instances where we try to go after pleasure, blissfulness, this anicca, dukkha, anatta nature has always worked in the background, creating suffering. Now that is a problem with existence. And when that person knows where to focus correctly, okay, this is a problem with my existence, and that is why existence needs to be ceased. It should be stopped. It should cease to exist. So we have to understand in that direction, and then the person who asked that question would have a subconscious conclusion based on correct facts. This existence is not good because of anicca nature, dukkha nature, anatta nature. Then that person would have the correct conclusion and a correct path towards an end. What is the correct conclusion? This existence should not be continued. This samsara should not be continued. It is because I have not understood this before that I am continuing this cycle. It's like a 400-meter track. We are running, looking for an end. But since we are running in circles, we never find an end. Since we have done this infinite times throughout this samsaric journey, we have never found Parinibbana. If we want to find Parinibbana, we have to understand we are running in a circle. We have to look at the big picture, we have to get out of this narrow thinking. We always think that we always think incident after incident. We focus on one incident, we think that we found a solution, and we think that it is pleasurable. But if we go to the broader view, we have done the same thing 1001 times, and it has been a useless end, because it always comes back to the original state. So if one understands this correctly, then they would know why Parinibbana has never occurred for us, because we have not understood this question. So understanding Anicca Dukkha Anatta understanding it correctly would answer all these questions that this person has. So the Parinibbana would be answered, and then the person would not look for the beginning of the samsara, but would look for the end of the samsara. Where the samsara starts with avijja and ends with jara marana. It's one cycle, one rotation. And that is why it says pubbha koti napanyayati. Pubbha koti napanyayati means the beginning starts not with panya. That means, in other words, the beginning starts with avijja. So that is what Supreme Buddha has given us. Because too complex, the beginning of the existence is too complex for us to understand. So what we should understand as the answer for this question is, it starts with avijja. You can very well understand avijja paccaya sankara. It starts with avijja and ends up in jara marana, soka parideva dukkha domana supayasa sambhavati. And it starts again back with avijja. It's like trying to find the beginning of a circle. If it is a circle, if it is a ring, we can't say that ring started from here and ended from here, because it is continuous all throughout. We can't say that this is the point it started, because it's a ring, it's a circle. Just like that, we would not be looking for the beginning of the samsara if we have our facts correctly, if we have our understanding correctly. We would have our focus to end this samsaric journey, because even the time we use to think for an answer to that useless question would be a waste of time, and in that whole time we would be suffering. So it's like one was shooted, or one was pierced with an arrow. So some bowman shoots on a person, and that arrow pierces his heart or his chest. Now we should never, if there is a person who thinks, okay, who shot me, and where was this bow made? Was it a long bow, or was it a crossbow? Was it poison? How was this arrow created or made? Is it made of wood? Is it made of metal? This person is, I want to know his name, the person who shot me. If the person is thinking in that way, this is actually an example or a analogy given by Supreme Buddha himself. So if the person is focused on that area, saying that looking for all the unnecessary data or unnecessary things, unnecessary questions. When the person is bleeding to death and dying because of the arrow, then that person is not a wise person. What he should do is, he should forget all about that, and he should focus on the burning problem that he has. I have been shot by an arrow. I have to get out of this. I have to go to a hospital. I have to meet a doctor. I have to do something to stop the bleeding. I have to get out of this situation, and I should find a cure. That should be the correct approach. That is the correct approach, actually. But if the person is looking for all the other answers, then that person is not focused correctly on the correct pathway. Just like that, we have been shot with 3 arrows, anicca, dukkha, anatta, and he's suffering. And we have to do our best to get these arrows out of our system and to attain Nibbana. That is the burning question that we should have, and the answer that we should find. And we should not look for, okay, where did it came from? Because answering that question needs a lot of effort. We need to become a supreme Buddha. It is not easy. So it's better to keep that question aside and to find the answer for the question we really suffer. That is samsara. And then the person would not look again answers for that question, why do I exist? Because I don't know, for some reason we exist, and the only what do you call the rational answer is to get out of this as soon as possible. So let's say we wake up somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and there are a lot of snakes around, a lot of dangerous animals along with us in this room. We don't know how we went there. We are somehow in a cage along with tigers, lions, snakes, and all the other vicious and very dangerous animals. As soon as we wake up, we see the threat. We see, okay, in few minutes I will be dead. Either I will be poisoned by a snake, or I'll be eaten alive by some beast. So we would not be thinking, okay, how did I get here? Who put me in this cage? Where was I before? No, the flight and fight response would kick in, adrenaline rush would come, and we would somehow find an exit, and we would be struggling. We would be looking for answers so that we can get out of this room safely, back into safety. So that is what the answer should be. So it's like, so the answer, or if the person is correctly understanding anicca, dukkha, anatta, that person is like looking an exit from the samsaric journey, not looking for the answer, why did I came here? Because that itself, answering that question itself would take millions and millions of years, because we need to do much more things, developing, gathering paramita energy and becoming a supreme Buddha. It's not an easy task. So I would suggest drop these questions altogether. Don't think about these questions, and get the real focus on the real question. Get your focus on the real question. Because even if you forget about Buddha Dhamma and continue on the samsara, you will still have those problems. You will still get subjected to the anicca, dukkha, anatta nature. And you will be still suffering even you know it or not. So the problem, it's like, the pasbara, the big bird, it hides its head when there's a danger. It puts his head under the sand and thinks, okay, there's no danger, I'm safe. But all his body is on the ground. Only his head is under the soil, under the sand. He's never safe. It's like that. If we start forgetting about Buddha Dhamma and think, okay, everything is fine because I'm not thinking about it, it's like we have become that Pasbara. We have put our head under the sand and we think, okay, we are fine. But there's this beast trying to kill this animal. So just like that, in using that analogy, we can very well understand anicca dukkha anatta nature would never go even if we contemplate on it or even if we don't contemplate on it. It will always be there around us. It will always be a part of this sansara or this universe. So the only rational answer, only answer for this question is to exit this sansaric journey as soon as possible. So I would suggest dropping all those questions altogether and focusing on the real question, giving him the focus to understand more, or giving him the focus to understand the reality of the world, because then he'll know, okay, what I should focus is this, and if I understand that correctly, all the other questions would be solved. Anything, any follow-up questions regarding that one? Okay, if nobody is having any questions, we can continue with a little bit of meditation, maybe some Buduguna chanting to help you to help you to calm a little bit and to contemplate on what we discussed today. So to do that, let us be comfortable. Close your eyes, since you have been discussing we have been contemplating on Dhamma for this long. All the Nivarana mindset has gone down, and it is very easy for us to focus on Buduguna. So let us straight away go to the recitation of Buduguna and focus on the simple meanings of Buduguna, the simple meaning of Arahang, Samma Sambuddho, and so on. But while focusing on the simple meaning, try to develop or contemplate, and it will develop the feeling of Arahang. Arahang is a combination of anicca, dukkha, anatta, and the valueless nature of the world, so that it's like there's no taste in this world. So the only taste is non-attachment, or nibbana. So that is kind of a feeling, but that feeling needs to develop gradually, but you'll get there when you do this regularly. So with that small tip, I'll start today's meditation. Take few deep breaths with the intention of relaxing your body and mind, and with the intention of starting today's meditation. You can recite along with me and use the same tone that I use, so that your samadhi would be induced by the samadhi sound. Namo Arahang, Namo Arahang, Namo Arahang. 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 Arahang. Namo Samma Sambuddho. 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 Namo Vidyacharana Sampanno. 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 Namo Vidyacharana Sampanno 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 Namo Sugato 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 Namo Lokavidu 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 Namo Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Namo Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati නමෝ අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති 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 නමෝ සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං 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 නමෝ බුද්ධෝ 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 Namo Buddho. Namo Buddho. Namo Buddho. Namo Buddho. Namo Bhagava. 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 While we are in the Samadhi, we are going to continue with the Punyanumodana, focusing on the great meritorious power that we generated throughout this Dhamma discussion. Everybody was focusing on Anicca Dukkha Anatta, and the correct way to focus on the eightfold pathway. With that contemplation, with that karmic energy that was created, immeasurable amounts of meritorious power is generated with the recitation of Buddhaguna. Immeasurable amounts of meritorious power is generated. All the meritorious power that we have generated throughout these actions may help everyone to complete their pathways. All the hindrances, barriers, and obstacles all of you have in completing the Arya pathway may get diminished, and the favorable environment or the bodily environment and the mental environment and the surrounding that helps or facilitates everyone to complete their Arya journeys may occur, and may everyone complete their Arya journeys by following the Eightfold Arya pathway, ending the suffering samsaric journey. May everyone get the ability to eliminate avijja, cultivate panya, breaking all the 10 sanyojanas, ending the suffering samsaric cycle. Accept this blessing with a sadhukara.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Let us transfer this meritorious power to all sentient beings, including the ones who helped us throughout this samsaric journey, especially our deceased relations of this life and previous lives, as well as parents, teachers, spouses, children, relations, neighbors, and also the ones who constructed and maintains the infrastructure that we use, roads, houses, and other things, and also everyone who helped us to have this discussion without disruption, maintaining the temple, maintaining the electric connections, maintaining the internet connections, and Zoom packages and everything, and also everyone who were behind the scene helping us to have this Dhamma discussion, and all the people who were hurted and harmed by our unwholesome actions throughout the samsaric journey, and all the deities and gods and Brahmas in higher planes, and all the sentient beings in the universe. Let us transfer this meritorious power to all of them, regardless of their current state of being, irrespective of wherever they are in this universe. If they are in miserable places, may they refrain from doing sinful acts. May they replace those sinful acts with meritorious deeds, and may they lead happy lives, full of life, comfort, power, refreshness, and wisdom, being able to open up the eyes of wisdom through a encounter with a Arya companion, ending the suffering samsaric journey, completing the Arya pathways. Accept this with a sadhukara, transferring this great meritorious power to all of them.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So we'll end today's discussion, and I'll be winding up this session with this Pali stanza, helping you with or blessing you with power, life, power, refreshness, and wisdom. Abhivadana series nichang uddha pajayano chattaro dhamma vartanti ayuvanno sukham balang ayurarogya sampatti sagga sampatti meva jato nibbana sampatti vinate samipyatu. May everyone attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Thero.
Teruan
Sadhu,
saranai. Sadhu,
sadhu.
sadhu. Teruan saranai.
Thero everyone.
Saranai.